The appointment of Justice Kekere-Ekun as Nigeria's new Chief Justice has ignited a crucial conversation about the urgent need for judicial reforms. As the first female Chief Justice in years, or rather the first, but she is second historically, her leadership marks a significant milestone, but it also comes with heightened expectations. With a judiciary often criticized for its inefficiencies and corruption, Justice Kekere-Ekun's tenure is seen as a pivotal moment to restore faith in the system and introduce much-needed reforms.
However, Justice Kekere-Ekun's appointment has not been without its challenges. Recent reports have surfaced alleging that she was barred from entering the United States due to a controversial ruling she made in the past. This incident has raised serious questions about the integrity of Nigeria's judiciary and the international implications of her leadership. As she steps into the critical role, the eyes of the nation are on how she will address these controversies and lead the judiciary forward.
And so to help us navigate these complex issues and also to discuss this in further detail, we're joined by a video chat, the former governor of Cross River State, His Excellency, Mr. Donald Duke. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Judith.
We'll also be joined later on by Uchenna Akingbade. She's a managing partner, Synesis PDLP. She'll join us during the course of this conversation. But let me start with you, sir. With this appointment as acting Chief Justice, what is your thought on her swearing in and just her being appointed as acting chief?
Well, first of all, you did mention that she is the second female to hold the office. Let me remind you and our audience that in the eyes of the law, there is no gender. So you don't have, there's no pillar to whatever sex you belong to. That aside, what I know of her, and reading some of her judgments, she's erudite, she's focused, and her colleagues term her brilliant. Her being the acting or CJN, which she will be eventually, is procedural. She's the most senior justice of the Supreme Court. So it's according to seniority, that's how you get it. Not, that's how you become the Chief Justice, not because you were smart. I must say that there have been quite a number that have not been smart and ought not to have been judges, let alone Supreme Court judges. But going further, there's a smear, and this smear is a judgment of which she was the lead for the Imo State governorship. I think it was 2018 or thereabout, 2019. The judgment was seen to be unpalatable, to say the least. And herself and her 4 other colleagues were barred from going to the United States. Now, going to the United States is not a badge of honor, as far as I'm concerned, but it's a statement that leaves a sour taste. It's not a decision that I believe the U.S. Embassy or the U.S. Department of State will take lightly. I'm sure they reviewed the judgment and found it absurd. And of course, because we lean towards the United States so much when we needed it, they had the temerity, if I may say, to express themselves in the way they have. Now, like I did say earlier, it's not a badge of honor to go to the United States or get a visa or not a visa to the United States. But when you think of it, that if there's a UN conference on the judiciary, our Chief Justice will not be able to attend. With immediate past Chief Justice Ariwola also could not attend. Now, Ariwola's tenure has, you have not asked me this question, but I'm breaking into it. was marred by nepotism of grander scale. And he tried to justify it as those who were benefits or beneficiaries of his nepotic acts were qualified. That's not the question. There are numerous qualified people, but if you choose a qualification amongst your relatives, that is nepotic, and that does not defeat the high office of Chief Justice of the Federation. He would go down in history in ignominy. The baton has now been transferred to Justice Kekere-Ekun. The onus is on her, and she'll be there for quite a number of years. She'll be there for maybe about 6 years or thereabout. She can redeem herself by cleaning up the judiciary, and in fact, the bar and the bench. The judiciary in Nigeria is in a very, very sorry state, to say the least.
Thank you very much, sir. First of all, I want to acknowledge the presence here of Bisi Makodrola. She's a legal expert, and she joins us as well. Bisi, you're welcome.
No, Uchenna Akingbade.
My apologies. Uchenna Akingbade is joining us here. Akingbade. Thank you very much for joining us. So let me come back to you, sir, regarding the reforms that should be made with the new CJN, the acting CJN. What reforms must be made for her to, like you say, put herself back online with, a proper judiciary?
Well, whatever I say here is subjective, but my opinion. If you want this country to continue to exist, there must be justice. Justice is the bedrock upon which human beings exist in any society. So, and in a democratic one, justice is the pivotal platform upon which it works. So you have a country where justice is not speedily meted out. You could be in court for the next 10 years, right? Businesses, foreign businesses always opt for foreign jurisdiction in the case of arbitration because they don't have any trust in our justice system. We Nigerians also don't have any trust in our justice system. It's for the highest bidder. I did told an audience not too long ago that lawyers are known to take monies to bribe judges. We know this. Let's not behave. You see, when we act naively, we turn our eyes or behave like the ostrich. We bury our heads, and these things are happening. The justice system in Nigeria stinks to high heavens, and you don't want to go to court. Look, I had a case, an issue with a bank. The bank overcharged me, running into the billions. I did a forensic audit, went to the bank, and they said, no, go to court. Because they know that it will take me 20 years to go anywhere. I was smarter than them. I went to the central bank. The central bank reviewed it and got the bank to repay me the funds. The bank is GTB. Now, this is what goes on in our financial institution. How can you talk about foreign investment when you don't have a justice system? How can you talk about peace in your country? If you don't have justice, you will not have peace. So there's a near absence of justice in fact, not near, there is an absence of justice in our system. And you have people say, oh, go to court, because they know you won't get anything out of it. But I tell you what, the politicians have sorted out themselves. You can go from the tribunal to the Supreme Court in 6 months. Why can't you do that for everyone? Why did you have to spend months, years trying to get justice? When you go to court, why can't you get justice in 90 days? And if you want to appeal, because an appeal is not on the facts, but it's on the interpretation of the law, based on the facts that have been established at the lower court, why can't you get justice or get your appeal heard in 45 days? Why must every case end up in the Supreme Court? The Supreme Court is so loaded today, it will take the Supreme Court, if you stop giving cases to the Supreme Court today, it will take the Supreme Court another 10 years or maybe more to clear all the cases on their desk. What kind of country is this? When we talk of a democracy, and the bedrock of a democracy is the justice system, no. She has a lot of work to do. She has the onus is on her to prove herself to as the head of the lead or the head justice in this country, clean up the system, a judicial reform that would ensure, look, listen, if you ask me, and I said it's subjective at the onset, there should be 2 tiers of appeal systems. You have the High Court, the lower Court of Appeal with 3 judges, the higher Court of Appeal with 5 judges, then it ends there. And you can go through all this in 180 days. Only cases that have to do with interpretation of the Constitution, cases between states and the federal government, or death sentences, and even all cases that the Supreme Court feels that it is pertinent enough to hear should be admitted to the court. So that when they sit down and write judgments, it is robust, it is well thought through, and it's precedential. Right now, the sort of judgments, because they're just churning out judgments like a conveyor belt, they're light, they are not worth a precedent that can be referred to in other jurisdictions. We're embarrassing ourselves. I don't know why we're doing this to ourselves.
Right.
But we should reform the system. And like I said to you, the politicians have sorted out themselves. But what is good for the goose is good for the gander.
Mr. Duke, and also I'll come to you, Uchenna. So I'm gonna throw this question to both my extinguished guests here.
Extinguished or distinguished?
Distinguished. Forgive me. Forgive me. It's the brain fog this morning. So, sir, acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, she's been sworn in and she's taken up the mantle. But I need to be educated on this and the process of this. If she's acting Chief Judge, what are the processes for her to become the Chief Justice of Nigeria? Not acting now, because I understand she's taken up the mantle, giving the Chief Justice Ariwola's a resignation, or leaving the position, passing the age of retirement. What then now happens? What is the process? And I'm going to start with you, Uchenna, here in the studio.
All right, let me educate you a bit here. It is on the basis of seniority. Yes. So after her tenure, when she attains the age of 70, which is a mandatory retirement age, you retire on your birthday. The next most senior justice, according to how you got to the court, not according to your age, but how you got to the court, will take over as Chief Justice. And it's justice, not judge, right? One thing I find quite amusing was that she was sworn in. She ought not to have been sworn in. She's acting. It's only after the Senate has approved or confirmed her appointment that she is then sworn in.
So they're jumping a process.
We're so used to doing the wrong.
So they seem to be doing the wrong thing. They're jumping a process. It seems like she's been handpicked for the job.
Automatically, she's acting Chief Judge. You don't swear someone who is acting.
Okay.
It's when it becomes substantial that you swear her in. Now, after she's been confirmed, is she going to be re-sworn again?
Yeah.
We have a problem.
Interesting question, sir.
Yes.
Let's take Uchenna's take here on this in the
Uchenna's
studio.
take, exactly.
Uchenna, thank you.
Yes,
Uchenna.
so just like you said, you have to be sworn in or confirmed by the Senate. That is what authenticates her position. So you saying she's been handpicked for the job, that's not really the case. There's a hierarchy.
No, I'm asking, do you think she's been handpicked for the job then?
You can't be handpicked for the job. You ascend to the job. There's
Okay.
a hierarchy.
Okay.
So when she reaches her age of retirement or something happens, the next most senior justice in line will take over from her. So there's an ascension. You really can't be handpicked. You go, they pick the next most senior judge.
So if
in
that
line.
is the case,
Yes.
then there shouldn't be a situation where she would be the acting CJN. It should just be, boom, since you're the next in line and there's a hierarchy being followed, you are the CJN. So
Well,
that's
so
perhaps why Judith is asking that very implicative question.
well,
May I clarify?
the Constitution, the provisions of the Constitution provide that the CJN is supposed to be confirmed by the Senate. And same thing with ministers and other appointees. Yes, so that is what makes her acting, because it is subject to her clearance and confirmation by the Senate.
If they find her wanting and not, if there was a process, the process of the confirmation of the Senate, where she comes to the Senate, they would ask her questions and everything else, and they find her wanting and not find her capable for the job, what now happens to her being acting?
Well, I guess the next most senior in
next
line,
most senior.
if they find her to be lacking,
And
right?
who will be the next most senior?
Well, the next most senior, I'm not quite sure of what the hierarchy is, but
I think Mr. Duke had Mr. Duke, you wanted to get an entry in there. What you were about to say something from before.
Yeah, as your guest has said, it's the ranking is as you attained or as you got admitted to the Supreme Court, right? I said that earlier, and it's not based on anything. But basically, what your question here, the point here is, if for any reason she goes, the Senate finds her not fit and proper to be Chief Justice of the Federation, even on account of her not being able to obtain a visa to the United States or whatever decision is, then she ceases, and from there onwards, she proceeds into retirement. And the most senior, the person immediately who came into the court immediately after her, would assume an acting position. Now, the point is here that you don't swear in someone who is acting because she's not been confirmed. You know, you have to get a confirmation before you, because after the confirmation, are you going to swear in again?
So you raised concerns about judiciary's independency, as well as the concerns about how clogged the system. Just basically the challenges that the acting Chief Justice will have to tackle. What type of political will she have or need to make sure that the judiciary is autonomous and independent and not captured by the state? Because many critics have said over and over again, with the last general elections and also other public cases and public civil cases that we've seen in the media, that the judiciary seemed to be state captured. And let's not forget that she's also from Lagos State as well. How then can she position herself and the judiciary to be very autonomous and independent?
She's the head of an arm of government. The three arms, she's head of one. She's not only the Chief Justice of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, she's the head of she presides over the NJC. Everything, the book stops at her table. She could initiate a reform in the entire justice system. She could strengthen the disciplinary arm. She's head of the NJC. She could strengthen the disciplinary system in the courts to ensure that judgments have reasoning to them. You have a case, you have cases in Nigeria where courts of the same federal high courts, for instance, give conflicting judgments, ridiculing the justice system in the country. And this has happened under the watch of several past chief justices. It should never be, because each court of power of same jurisdiction, right? There must be a way they communicate. You can't have a high court, for instance, in Owerri, giving a judgment contrary to what another one gave in Port Harcourt. So there's so many things. Besides that, even the lawyers themselves, they have to be brought to book. Look, let me share a story with you. Because each time we talk about the judiciary, we keep on talking about it in the past, not the present. In the past, it was better. I give an example that concerns me, and this story was told to me, and I hope I have the time to tell the story, but very short. It was told to me by General Abdul Salam. In 1998, when I contested as governor, I contested against a chap, Mark Ukbo. He's late now. His elder brother was the closest person to General Abdul Salam, who told General Abdul Salam that the election in Cross River was flawed. General Abdul Salam called Justice Ephraim Akpata and said to him, the elections in Cross River, I'm told, were flawed. I would like a rerun. Ephraim Akpata looked at him and said, "You'll get my letter of resignation by the close of business today." Do you think that will happen today in today's Nigeria? They are men of integrity. For you to be a judge, it's something you give your life to. You don't interface any longer with society. For you to rise up to be a justice of the Supreme Court, I mean, you are seen as a rare breed. People look at you with awe. Now they are commonplace. You see justices dancing and spraying at parties. It's a joke.
Mr. Duke, I would like
And,
to
I
extend the
think
same
we have
question.
a time limit.
Yes, sorry, sir, but I'd like to extend the same question to Uchenna here in the studio regarding the complexities of maintaining an independence for the judiciary in a politically charged society. So, Uchenna, please, if you'd give us your response to that.
So, speaking of this, she does have her work cut out for her. And I would think that autonomy for the judiciary is not just one way. It's not just one way. It's not just about the political class. Even the entire system and structure of the Supreme Court itself needs to be reworked for that autonomy, because you start thinking there's the court, which is the justice system itself, the judiciary. There's the administrative process as well. So there are a lot of things that go into this, and restoring autonomy, you must restore public confidence in the judiciary. Different things, what are the things that have brought up controversy about the judiciary? Conflicting judgments, like Mr. Duke has said. You also have nepotism in appointment of judges, like has already been said. So there should be more transparency. He has said she's the head of the NGC, so there should be more transparency in the appointment of judges. And yes, when there's more transparency, then things will be a bit better. And I think the public opprobrium will be lesser. Yes. And also, now speaking on the administrative aspect of the court itself, the new Supreme Court rules, there are new Supreme Court rules 2024, and this is to replace the Supreme Court rules of 1985, I believe. Yes, and that has made substantial improvements on the administrative leg of the court. This has, there were practice directions which were obtainable before, but this has incorporated them. And you now have situations where you have e-filing, electronic filing, and they are currently working on a Nigerian case management system where the courts and lawyers will have access to that. So if we talk about conflicting judgments, could it be that the judges in Imo did not hear about the judgments in Adamawa? Could it be? Could it be that it's a lack of communication? I'm just playing devil's advocate here. It's difficult to play that, but could it be? So when we have this new case management system come on board, it can help, because you'll be getting these informations in real time. And I guess no one will be able to say they did not know that their brother judge had taken this decision a week or a month ago. So those are things we need to ensure that the system is working right. She will need to ensure that the system is working right. So when all those things are in place, then it will be easier to plug in all these other holes. And really, it comes down to the will of the person. It's difficult. It's difficult. The challenges will be there, the temptations will be there, but it comes down to our will. And in as much as there have been different things, but she has risen and she has done a lot on the back end in terms of ensuring that all these reforms come into play.
I mean, I have to, one thing that's certain is that modernized system upgrade
Yes.
has been touted to be the solution to our infrastructural problems. But we wait to see if
I'd like to come back to Mr. Duke. Please, sir, I would like to know if there are constitutional mechanisms in place to help the new Justice Kekere-Ekun achieve these reforms that we're expecting from her. Are there constitutional mechanisms on ground?
Go ahead. He lost you.
Said a lot.
Can you repeat? I hardly heard
Okay,
you.
I'm asking, sir, if there are constitutional mechanisms on ground to aid the new CJN in her reforms that we're expecting her to make in the judiciary.
Well, Constitutions are made by men. You could institute it if it doesn't exist. It's, the problem with Nigeria is not even so much the system we operate, it's the personnel that operates the system. Yes, there are reforms that could be made. Judgments, listen to what happened, the local government decision that was taken recently by the Supreme Court. In my opinion, that judgment goes flat out against the face of the Constitution. You'll need to reform, you need to amend the Constitution to really put effect on that judgment, because there's what they call the JAC, joint account of both, joint account of both states and local government. Local governments are not federating units. Local governments are purely administrative units and should be within the purview of the State House of Assembly. But now we have elevated it without, and given it teeth by the Supreme Court judge, without regard for the Constitution. So yes, you can amend, you ought to amend the Constitution. For instance, what I said earlier on about having a two-tier appellate system, without having to go to the Supreme Court, and judgment have to be given within 90 days and 45 days and all that. All that could be done with a review of the Constitution. Yes, we ought to.
All right.
Mm-hmm. And sir, because we're pressed for time and we have to go very soon, but I have to ask you, the swearing in happened for the acting Chief Justice. The CJN has now been sworn in and she takes up the mantle. But do you think that by bypassing the step of a confirmation by the Senate, do you think that there's something to hide there, especially with her being barred from the U.S.?
No. I just think that we don't even know the system we're operating. Like I said, and your guest also mentioned this. Automatically, by sheer seniority, she becomes the next Chief Justice designate, but it's subject to confirmation by the Senate. It is upon that confirmation that she is formally sworn in. But we've done it the wrong way, as we usually do. She was sworn in as acting. You don't swear in acting, for goodness sake, right? Because once she's confirmed, are you going to swear her in again? That's the point I've been making. Just doesn't, I don't know.
And what kind of message does this pass on to the international community, or especially for the legal community on a world platform, global platform, that the Chief Justice of Nigeria is, acting Chief Justice of Nigeria is barred and also took up the mantle without any confirmation from, the executive, or rather, from the executive or legislative, I beg pardon.
From the Senate. You're getting me wrong. First of all, your latter question. Once the Chief Justice attains the age of 70, he or she proceeds to retirement immediately. The next most senior justice takes over in an acting position and is sworn in after confirmation. Swearing in is formally, you're now recognized as the Chief Justice of Nigeria. Prior to, you are acting. Now, we have gone around it in an absurd manner and sworn her in without confirmation. But she still bears the title acting. The point is, when she is eventually confirmed, you're going to be swearing her in a second time. Doesn't make sense. Regarding
yes,
the point that the Chief Justice barred from obtaining a U.S. visa.
All right, sir. Unfortunately, sir, my apologies, sir, but we are out of time. But I want to say thank you very much, sir, for joining us and giving us your expert opinion regarding this case here. And of course, also to Uchenna, who's in the studio here with us. Thank you very much for joining us this morning here on this topic. Thank you indeed.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.